The third keynote is given by Professor of Cybersecurity Governance at the University of Leiden. Give it up for Bibi van den Berg. Bibi, before we start the time,
Yes.
there's some breaking news at this moment.
I get the rest of the 2 hours. Yes?
No. You wish. Well, you used to give lectures from up to 8 hours,
Yes.
aren't you?
Yeah.
And now you got 8 minutes. But before we start the 8 minutes, Dick Schoof will be our next Prime Minister. It's breaking news.
Oh, really?
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's nice to bring you the news.
Okay. We have a direct line. That's cool.
And that's what I wanted to ask you, because obviously you know him.
Yeah.
So this might be good news for the CISO community. So, ladies and gentlemen, you not only have a whole day of the year, CISODAY, but from now on, you have someone in the Katshuis who knows which kind of business you do and why it's so important.
Cool. Very cool.
So that's your reaction? Cool?
That's it. Yeah.
Okay. That's a
Very
response.
cool.
It's
I
cool.
wish him lots of luck.
You wish him lots of luck. It will be a difficult task, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we set politics aside right now. Let's go to the next presentation. Okay. Bibi, the floor is yours.
Yes.
Good luck.
Thank you. I don't know if I can get you quiet after this exciting news, but there we go. No worries. So, welcome everyone. Do you remember this time when life was very simple and analog and people used typewriters? I was trained in a philosophy department. So for me, in the very recent past, people in the philosophy department were all still using typewriters. Nobody had computers. Nobody even had garbage cans because they got everything right the first time, and everything they wrote was genius. So they didn't need any of this stuff. But for most of us today in organizations, the reality is that we're looking at this kind of soup. It's spaghetti, right? Tremendous complexity, and you guys are in roles where you need to somehow dig everything apart and make it understandable and palatable for boards who need to make very complicated decisions. I'm in the business of doing research on how organizations make decisions in cybersecurity. And so one of the things we do is actually study what you do and study how you talk to boards. And one of the interesting things we've been encountering time and time again is that when we talk to boards, but also when we talk to CISOs, people love numbers. We all love to bring everything back to specific values and to be able to say, okay, let's stick a formula on it, and then we have numbers, and numbers are value neutral. You can say, oh, this number is bigger than this one, this risk is bigger than that one, so that means that we have an easy decision to make on how which risk we're actually going to act on first. And it's not surprising, therefore, that risk management also really builds on numbers. Risk management comes originally from the field of airplanes, or so the development of airplanes. And there's a very, very long history of doing that, right? And because of that, when you develop airplanes, there's lots and lots of data available on the potential causes of incidents or near misses, and you can act very adequately on this type of information. So lots and lots of data available. Another element of working in the airline industry is that there is a possibility to simulate. So if you want to develop a new product, or if you want to train a pilot, you can do so in a very safe environment, in a simulated environment where people learn to fly, or if you develop a new airplane, you can crash that airplane 1,000,000 times over without causing any damage whatsoever. And that's wonderful news, because it means it's a safe environment to test in. It's a safe environment to try out new things. Also, we look at airplanes and we think, wow, airplanes are really complicated devices. But in fact, they're not. If you drill down all the way to what an airplane really is, it's just a tube with a bunch of wings. And lots of buttons, lots of overrides, lots of extra systems involved to ensure that it doesn't crash. But if you look at how airplanes stay up in the sky, then there are actually a very limited number of variables that play a role. You have to understand how wind works and a little bit about turbulence and maybe bad weather. And yes, every now and then there's an evil person on board who does something unexpected. But by and large, airplanes are super simple devices. Now compare that to what you guys are doing. and it's a whole different world, right? Remember the spaghetti we just looked at. Do you have lots and lots of data available? I mean, more than 100 years past data of incidents and near misses? You don't. Comparatively, you have very little data. And the data is also much, much harder to read and much harder to understand. Can you work with simulations in the same way that you can in the airline industry? You can use simulations, but it's also much more complicated and difficult. And do you have limited complexity in the environment you are working in? Is cyberspace limited in its complexity? My God, no. It's super, super complicated and getting more complicated every single day. Yet we use the same methodology that we've borrowed from the airline industry and that we basically transplanted and adjusted here and there, but ballpark, it's the same methodology. And the question then becomes, is it relevant? Is it possible to do that in the right way? Should this be the only tool? Should we rely so heavily on numbers? Especially when you add the last element, which is the element of intentionality. In cyberspace, the vast majority of incidents is caused by people who willfully go out of their way to do bad stuff. And they do so in a surprising way. That's the whole point of engaging in an attack. If your attack is easy to predict, then it's probably not going to be successful. But intentionality is something that we really cannot factor in very well in all of our calculations on risk. So it's really difficult to do this well. And as a consequence, we at some point started asking the question, should we be having different conversations with the boardroom? Boardrooms want numbers. They want to know we have a budget and we have to make choices on which tools to buy, which not to buy, what to invest in, and how we have to know which are our biggest risks. And we tend to give them numbers in answer to their questions. But maybe we should be having a very different conversation instead. And so what I want to do is talk a little bit about research that we did a couple of years ago for the Central Bureau of Statistics, who were looking to investigate the security of one of their systems, client-end systems. And they asked a number of my colleagues and myself to do an evaluation on this. And we advised them not to do a risk assessment with numbers, but we said to them, you need to have a different conversation. You need to talk to the board of the Central Bureau of Statistics and ask them which values drive your organization. And then you need to stand for those values and say, if we want to be an open and accessible organization where everybody can have access to the data that we have, that's going to entail that at some point you're going to have a breach and a big incident and people are going to say stuff about that. But if you stand for the values that you hold dear, then this is also an open conversation that you can have. And you don't need to rely on the numbers. You can decide what values you want to embrace. Now, if you'd like to know more about this, because I only have 1 minute left, then please come to my masterclass. It'll be in the second part of the program, so after the coffee break. And without further ado, I'll hope to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bibi van den Berg. Thank you.